Okay, welcome to our December 4th Borough Council meeting, special meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Checkeye? Here. Dr. Lee?
Yeah.
Mr. Malkin?
Here.
Mr. Myslinski?
Here.
Mr. Pallid?
Here.
Mr. Schwartzmeyer?
Here.
Ms. Delhi? Here. Mayor O'Keefe?
Here.
Okay, public comments. Residents and taxpayers of the borough are permitted to comment on current matters of concern or agenda items which are before council this evening. If you'd like to address the borough council this evening, we ask that you please stand at the microphone, give your name, spell your last name, and give your address so you'll be properly identified for the minute record. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. As an alternative, written comments can be submitted to public comments at franklinparkborough.us prior to 12 noon Eastern Time on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. In order to be considered at this meeting, please include November 4th public comment as the subject of your email and include your name and address so you're properly identified for the minute record. Was there any emails? Were there any?
There were none.
Okay. If you do come up to speak for anything this evening, please use the microphone so that you can be recorded. Otherwise, you will not be recorded. Old business, there are none. New business, motion number 1.
Oh, wait. Nope.
Oh, sorry.
You got somebody on there?
Yes, so we do have public comment before old business. Speaker is Sean Hyde.
Do it now.
Yeah, either. Yeah, you can do it now. It's fine. Yep.
Sean, Sean, Hyde, Hyde, at 1417 Scarlet Ridge Drive. Hi, everyone. I thought there would be more speakers, but maybe there aren't. So if I'm redundant, I apologize. I'm here to encourage council to make the brave and correct decision to properly fund Franklin Park. The last few years have seen the highest inflation in the last 30 years. This has particularly impacted goods and services, some of the main things the borough spends money on. This has been accompanied by increases in real estate values, which even rising interest rates have failed to control due to lack of supply. Rising real estate values, however, have not translated into increased revenue for the borough due to the asinine way that property taxes are calculated and maintained. Anyone displeased with the lack of accurate and adaptive real estate tax assessment is welcome and encouraged to lobby their state representatives to actually fix this problem. But that's not a problem we can solve here tonight. Unfortunately, I believe the only correct way to deal with the problem that we have is to raise the millage to accurately compensate for what should have been increased revenue from rising real estate values, revenue that is vital for the proper functioning of Franklin Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we. Okay. Now on to old business. None. New business. Motion number 1.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Schwartzmeyer.
Yeah, I think that before we take the final vote, that we ought to just let the public know effort that the entire council has put into our decision this evening, and our decision doesn't come lightly. I've been on this council since 2015, and other than a small adjustment to the tax that was specifically to fund the fire company bond issue, there was no increase other than to pay the 20-year debt on that bond. Our taxes have really been flat since the year 2003, if you can believe that. Now, there was an adjustment in 2013, but it was neutral. That was when the county did their big 2012 reassessment. You might all remember that. And we're not allowed to profit from that. None of the municipalities are. So we had to actually, when the real estate value went up, we had to reduce our millage. So there was a change in millage, but there wasn't really, effectively, there was no increase. It was a small bump in 2016. And tonight we're looking for 3/10 of a mil. And I thought there was a lot of information that we've tried to get out. There was a whole big write-up on the website. Hopefully some of you have seen that. And we really struggled to come up with any other options without doing this. But I thought I'd share my personal thing with you. I went and looked up what this is going to do for me. And I've lived in Franklin Park only since 1978. So I've only been here 46 years. And this, my total property tax, and I live over on Cole Road, for this year is $5,845 for all the tax I pay for all three of them. Of that, the borough is $307. So it's like, I don't know, not even 10%, 7 or 8% of that. This increase will raise my borough tax from 307 to from 379, from 307 to 379, and it represents about a $71 increase. And that'll be the first increase I've seen, since 2012. Again, it's a small amount, but the borough looked really long and hard to try to find any alternative to doing this. And I want to commend the fellow council people for all the hard work that was done. If you haven't read the document, you might want to go back and look at what was posted. I want to credit Laura. Laura did a lot of the authorship on that. It was very well written. And I know that the rest of the council provided her input on that as well. So we tried to be as transparent with the whole thing as possible to give every reason why we came to this point after we really did struggle. I mean, we're just saying that it was truly a struggle to get to the point where we would want to recommend this. So before we vote, I just don't want anybody to think that we took this lightly and that this was the short way out. But we are facing some expenses that have occurred recently. If you read this, you'll see the MS4, which is repairing all the stream banks within the borough. It's a mandated project, but of course it came from the federal government, but it came with no funding, of course. So we've been spending, $500,000 to $1 million a year cleaning the streams on Pine Creek and Fish Run and some of the other tributaries. It's coming right out of the borough coffers. Now, that being said, we have acquired some grants to help us pay for it, but it certainly hasn't covered the entire cost of that mandate. And we have aging infrastructure in the borough. So I guess all that being said, I want to commend Reed for all his grant writing efforts and the monies we have pulled in. And you may have probably aware of all the improvements that have been going on with the parks. There's a big job over at Acorn Park right now. Since I've been on council, we opened Old Orchard Park. And we all know that one of the things the borough residents expressed during our comprehensive plan that was approved 2 years ago was, they want public safety. The chief will probably tell you we have a fully staffed police department now. We have very good coverage. I've never heard a single complaint about our police department. They said the officers are there, they patrol, they're very well received by the residents. And normally we have 1 or 2 letters at least each month that the chief shares with council on the positive feedback that we're getting from the residents. So public safety was the big thing in that plan, which includes the police, the fire department. We have several volunteer firemen that are very active here on council. And then of course the ambulance authority, and then the parks and green spaces was the other hot item that the residents really wanted us to focus on. And we've acquired several properties. And we don't go looking for properties, but when something that makes sense to preserve it and it's contiguous with something we already own, the borough will consider banking a little bit of land so that we can then expand in the future and continue to provide those green spaces that the residents have indicated they want. So a lot of good things have been going on. We try to do those and with as many grants again as we can. But again, we're trying to preserve the good things in Franklin Park. And being a 46-year resident, I've seen it grow a lot, and hopefully it's grown in a good way, and we're trying to preserve the best parts of it. So, thank you, Udi. I just wanted to share some of those, and I'm sure my fellow council members might have something else to share as well.
Thank you, Councilman Schwartzmeyer. Any of my fellow council members or mayor have anything to share?
I just have just a point, and this point came from Mr. Schwartzmeyer. He said in the last 7 years, it turns out that we had to dip into our cash reserves 5 times. We were doing our best to try and not do a tax increase, and that was one of the ways we were doing it. But eventually, you have to pay the piper, and this 3/10 mil increase, which is, as Mr. Schwartzmeyer said, is not a very large impact on the total amount of property taxes that we have to pay in Franklin Park. This is what we need to do to be fiscally responsible. The state law requires us to keep a certain reserve, about 17%, if I remember correctly, something around there. And if we had not been able to accomplish this budget, and if we do not pass this 3/10 millage, we're going to drop below the 17%, which will impact everybody in the borough because our bond rating will be reduced. It'll cost more to borrow money if we can even borrow the money. And if we keep going the way we're going, as the writing said on the website, we'll be a distressed community, which makes no sense for the borough of Franklin Park. So we have a fiscal responsibility as the managers of Franklin Park here to do our best to balance the budget. And with this, as Mr. Schwartzmeyer said, we struggled very hard to try to figure out places where we could cut services that wouldn't impact, to try to cut things out of the budget. And this is the most conservative increase in taxes that we could come up with that would still be fiscally responsible. And I think everybody in council would agree with that statement. So thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else?
One thing is just like some people believe that if we can build more house and more apartment in the borough, and we can bring more revenue to the borough. And actually, according to our study and also our record for the long term, and the borough will lose money if we build more house or apartment. So I just wanted our residents to know about that.
President, one more point. I think people should realize that this doesn't impact on their homestead exemption. If they have a homestead exemption, that still applies here in gross, just as before. So
That is correct. This does not impact. Okay.
Mr. President, I'll
Yep, go ahead.
just want to say that I don't want to be redundant because everything that's been said here was right on the money. It was a very difficult decision for us to make. Ultimately, we're here to keep Franklin Park one of the best places to live, and this is going to help us do that. And thank you for your attendance here tonight. We appreciate it.
Mr. President, the only thing I would add is I know we gave those who signed up a chance to speak. We open it up to everyone else. There's a lot of
So
folks.
at this
out there.
time or?
It's up to the chair. We have the sign-in sheet.
Yep.
In the past, we have allowed it, and in the past, we've had public comment at the end of the meeting, which isn't required by the Sunshine Act. We don't have it on the stated agenda. Do it at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. Okay, so that's fine. Do we have to motion for it? Or-
No. You have
Okay.
the chairs.
Okay, so given the special meeting, is there any further public comment for motion number 1? Or 2? Okay. Seeing as there is none, do we?
Yep.
Oh, are there any hands raised on Zoom?
Hands raised.
Okay. Seeing as there's no further comment from council, mayor, or the public, do we have a motion for the motion?
Made and seconded, I forget now.
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
No? Abstain? Motion number 1 passes. Mr. Yunker, would you summarize ordinance number 691-2024?
Certainly, this is ordinance number 691 of 2024. It is an ordinance of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, levying and assessing taxes for general and specific purposes for the year 2025. Ms. Crummett, has this been advertised for potential action this evening?
Yes, it has.
Is there any public comment? Any hands raised? Okay, any comment from my public council members? Oh, okay. Yes, so, motion number 2.
Move to enact ordinance number 691-2024, establishing the 2025 millage rate as 1.590 mils and continuing all other existing taxes and rates for the year 2025.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just have one point, Mr. President. If I remember correctly, after we do this, we'll still be the fourth lowest in the county. Is that correct? Yeah,
That's correct.
yep, that would be it.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion number 2 carries. Seeing as there are no other agenda items, are there any further public comments from the audience? Okay. Online, any hands raised?
I see no hands raised, Mr. President.
Okay, so we're at the conclusion of our special meeting. Do we adjourn or do we recess?
We're going to adjourn and we'll adjourn the voting portion of the special meeting and we'll move into our pre-meeting. It is a public meeting, but is in the back typically, and we'll start as soon as we're situated.
And everybody's welcome, of course, if you want to follow us into the,
Yep, you're
into the
welcome
work
to join
session,
us.
as always,
Yep,
please.
you're welcome to join us in our working session.
Move to adjourn.
Yep, motion adjourned. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
We are adjourned.